Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this morning for this training. My name is Dottie Vance, and I'll be taking you through today's session. I'm also joined virtually by some of my colleagues who will speak up during our designated question and answer period to provide any clarity we might need about this topic. In addition, I have my producer on the call, Monica Montre. Mo is what we call her, and she's going to help us monitor the chat and make sure if there's any questions. Basically, just making sure that we run smoothly this morning. So this morning, we are here to talk about the changes that are being implemented as part of the import allocation automation training. So we're making this automated. To increase transparency and provide greater service to our stakeholders, we are recording this webinar. It will be posted on our website sometime after, so you'll be able to view it for the future or for those who maybe weren't able to attend today's call. Additionally, I see that Mo did put the slides in our chat, so you can pull those up and follow along if you would like. They're also on our Learning Center, and we'll put them on the release planning page as well to the project that this relates to. Now, before we dive in today, I do just want to go over some housekeeping together. So as a reminder, please keep yourself on mute unless it is time to ask a question. For asking questions, you have a couple options. You can either enter your question in the chat and we'll answer to you back and we'll read it out loud that way. Or you can use the raised hand icon feature that's in WebEx. And this will alert to us that you do have a question. And then at those designated stopping points that we have built into this training, we'll take those questions verbally and get you those answers. So now that we have an understanding of the housekeeping and what to look forward to, let's talk about the agenda. So what are we here to talk about today? So first things first, I do want to do a background on this project. So level set everything, where did it come from, where are we moving, and then what's going to be happening as part of market simulation. We're also going to walk through the changes. So there are Sierra UI changes as it relates to this automation process. That's the automation part of it. For steps 8 through 12 and step 13, we'll go over as well. And then again, we want to make sure that you leave today prepared for market simulation as it does start next week, and then any readiness activities that could also be coming up. So now that we've gone over this agenda, let's talk about the project. So where did this come from? What's the background on this project? So you'll see this is the new import allocation automation. It's coming from the Operations Foundational Improvement, so OFI. You'll see that before the BRS. And basically, the OFI is a goal to deliver timely system improvements that are going to support day-to-day needs, which this project is part of that. It's the process of we're automating these steps rather than that manual process that we've previously used, where it's through email. It will now be through the customer interface for resource adequacy, SIRA, user interface, that UI change. The goal of this project is we want to be able to streamline it and increase efficiency so it's not as taxing for you as the user. I've also included a couple links here just for you to have. So the first link is the business requirement. It's at BRS. I also linked the BPM. Now there are no BPM changes as it relates to this project. I did want to link the BPM that does relate to import allocation though. And then the same thing with that tariff. I linked that section. So now that you understand kind of where it's come from, what our goal is to make this more efficient, I want to talk about implementation. So earlier in April, that BRS was posted for users. Today, we're here doing our external training. We want to make sure you leave prepared and have an understanding about what your role is part of this process. Market simulation will kick off next week, and then we have a production activation in June. I don't have the exact date for you right now. However, when we do get that date, we will make it available and we'll reach out and provide that information. In addition, I have a link here for the Sierra user guide. It has been updated, as well as this page to show you where to locate this on our website. So this user guide was updated last week and it was sent out to users through SendGrid. And it will show all these changes that have been implemented in this project as well. So when you go through market simulation, whether you use this recording or this training slides or the Sierra user guide, you'll have a couple options as you enter in your information. Additionally, I wanted to talk about market notices as it relates to this process. So we are automating this process. However, we are going to keep some things the same. So that being, we will continue to post and send market notices for steps 8 through 13. They'll continue to be posted on the reliability requirements page under planning. And so I have a screenshot here to show you what that looks like. What you're going to notice though with these notices is the language is going to be updated. So instead of emailing, again, that manual process, you're going to be submitting it through Sierra. So the language will have something around users now will submit steps blank through Sierra. Additionally, with this automation process, I do want to call attention and a refresher to updating your contact information. So Sierra has steps in place to send notifications to users whenever a step is complete, specifically 10 and 12. And so to make sure you receive that or the right person for your organization gets this, please make sure you go in and just review your contact information. And as a reminder for contact information, you can only have one LOC SCID contact entered at a time. So you'll just want to review that before this process. So I do want to pause here before we jump into the steps. So the next slides will talk about what the Sierra UI looks like. But I'll pause here, see what questions we have, and I'll pass it over to you, Mo, to let me know if you see anything.
Thank you, Dottie. Oh, it looks like we have a question from Eric Johnson. Eric, go ahead and unmute yourself.
So you were saying that how many people can you actually have registered to receive notifications?
I believe for the contact information, it's one, if I'm correct. And if my project team has other information, please feel free to chime in.
Okay, so for each LLC, you can only have one.
So this is Nalini here. The contact information page has one primary email and then one secondary email, and the same for phone. So you can enter up to 2 emails.
I'm just trying to be sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that correction.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, and I'm also not seeing any other hands raised. So I'm just going to pause real quick just to give folks some time. All right, Dottie, back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mo. So this next section is going to be going through the new tabs. So when you first enter Sierra, we'll be going over what that looks like. And then we're going to review steps 8 through 10. Now, it is a lot of information, so we'll have a stopping point to kind of talk through it if you have any follow-up questions. So we'll walk through it together, and then we'll pause to see what questions we might have. And then the later half of this training, we'll go through the remaining steps and then a few other reports. So jumping in, when you log into Sierra currently, this should be what it looks like. Now, the tabs may look different depending on the role that you have, but the thing that should remain the same is plans, manage import allocation, and then you see a few tabs that you're able to click on. I want to call attention that some of the things will be changing. So you'll see the tab View SC Import Allocation that will now be renamed to Holders of Import Capability, which I'll show you what that looks like in the next slide. And then another tab called SC Request Unassigned Import Capability. This has been renamed to be called Step 13 Request Unassigned, and it has been moved to a new tab, which will be on this user interface titled Remaining Import Capability Steps. Again, this was through the MIC enhancement that had training on it last year. I have some slides later on that will go over Step 13 and what that looks like for you, but that will be updated. Speaking of updates, so going forward, this is what that Sierra UI should look like. Again, some of the tabs may look different depending on your role, but you'll go to Plans, Manage Imports, and you're going to see 3 new screens. So you'll see that Remaining Import Capability that branches out to the steps. And then another screen is the Holders of Import Capability. And then the last screen is Remaining Import Allocation Reports, which we'll talk about those 2 tabs later on. So the first thing I do want to talk about is when we're going through, you'll go to the Remaining Import Capability steps. And again, this page is going to hold your steps 8 through 13. They're all together and organized for you in different tabs. So as a user, you'll select that, and it's going to bring you to this first tab. So this is the landing tab whenever you click that page. And this page is called the Unassigned Available Import Capability. And this is a report that users can use as they go through these steps. What this is basically is it's going to be an opportunity to view the branch group's import capability and what's remaining for a specific branch group, specifically at the ends of step 7, 10, and 12. So that's the end of calculation. So the numbers could be shifting depending on what was requested. The reason that we're going to have you come back and look at this report, or it's suggested to, is you're going to be looking at what is remaining on a branch group when you put in requests. So instead of kind of blindly going in and requesting a certain amount for a specific branch group, you'll know how much is remaining on a branch group, and you can make your adjustments depending on how much you would like to request for that amount. So the next thing I do want to talk about is what is at the top of these tabs. So you're going to notice submission window details, and this will be at the top of each step, so you kind of have an idea how much time is remaining, what step you're on, what's the year. So you'll see it has the step name, the time period. There will be a description of that step as well as the year it's for. I specifically included this screenshot because you'll notice it has step 8 and step 9. And this is the only 2 steps that overlap with their submission window. So you'll see the dates kind of overlap with one another. As you go through this process, we do encourage you to do this in sequential order. So what that means is you would complete step 8 first, and then you would move on to step 9. So what does step 8 look like? So if we were to click that tab, it would bring us to step 8, transfer of import capability. I've included the path here for you so you can refer back to it if you're trying to remember what tab this is all on. And what you're going to be doing in this page specifically is it's going to be load serving entities that LSE to LSE transfers. And so you're transferring the remaining import capability available, or what you would like to. So for your action, what you'll do is you'll enter these transfers. And I also want to point out that you're able to edit whatever you decide to transfer up until that submission window closes. So I do want to show you what that looks like when you're entering. So what you'll do is you'll go down, you'll fill out the year, the transfer LSE. So this is going to be the LSE that's making the transfer, the transferee LSE. So this is who's receiving it. And then the data that you would like for quantity and price. And then you're going to hit add to add a row. And then view is again just to view your submissions that have already been completed. Once you do add, you'll see that your information is posted. And you're also going to see a couple other things on this report. The first one is the remaining import capability. And just for awareness, this is going to be the amount of import capability that was uploaded for the LSE. And then you're also going to see tradable capacity. And this is just how many megawatts of import capability an LSE has left. So it'll show you those 2 numbers as you're doing an LSE to LSE transfer. A really nice thing about Sierra is we do have validations built in. So when you do these requests, it'll be accepted. And if not, it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do in order to get it accepted. And this is going to apply to all the other steps as we move through this process. So I do want to go over what that validation could look like. So some validations in place are, it's not going to allow you to submit past that submission window. You're not going to be able to transfer over the tradable capacity limit. And then you also will not be able to view other LSE's remaining import capability or tradable capacity if you're not mapped to them. If you are mapped to an LSE, then you will see it, but if not, you will not see it. And just for an example of kind of what that looks like, I did an example where we have an LSE, Dallas. So Dallas, the LSE, this is their login screen. They got the notification, it's time for them to enter for step 8, and they're looking at their screen. So what we see is that they have made a transfer to Waco, and that Houston, another LSE, has transferred to them. So what can Dallas see? On their screen, they're able to see their remaining import capability. They're able to see their information that they submitted, as well as what was received, transferred to them by Houston. And then they're also able to view their own tradable capacity. What Dallas is unable to see is they're not able to see Houston's remaining import capability or that tradable capacity because they are not mapped to Houston. So it'll show as blank on that Sierra UI. So we've gone through step 8. We've talked about the user action being you will be making these requests for the transfer from one LSC to another. And after you complete this, the submission window is open because, again, step 8 and step 9 overlap. So you're going to move on to the next tab. But before you do that, just as a reminder, when you're entering these requests, you kind of want to have an understanding of, okay, how much unassigned import capability is on a certain branch group. And that's why you'll go back to this report. You'll view all the branch groups, they'll all be available, and you can determine, okay, what request do I want to make in step 9? After you're done reviewing and you have an idea of what request you want to make, you're going to move on to step 9. So now the screen says step 9/10, initial SC request to assign Rick. The action that you will be doing is the submitting for step 9, and then the step 10 comes in when we do a calculation run. So when the submission window closes, that's when step 10 runs. What this screen is you're going to be submitting requests for a branch group. And again, we have validations in place to make sure that is accepted. And if it's not, it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. And then the last thing I want to point out before we move on to what it looks like to submit on a branch group is that step 9 and 10 are going to be identical to step 11 and 12. So again, this is a lot of information, but luckily this is just repeated later on. It's going to be another opportunity for folks to submit import allocation capabilities for a branch group. So as we continue for completing step 9, so it's gonna look very similar to what you just did for step 8. You fill out the year, the LSC, and then the import groups that you would like. Again, you can select as many import groups as you would like to do requests for, and then you're going to hit add. Hitting add is going to prompt you to enter the requested import capability. And so using the data that you saw in the report, you can request depending on how much it has left and what fits for your group. And then just as a reminder that all applicable LSCs that users are mapped to are going to be available, and then all branch groups are available to select. So again, Sierra, it's amazing that it has validations and steps, so we're able to catch these if anything goes wrong. So we have this validation that I kind of wanted to talk to you about. You'll see the error report says requested import capability megawatt is greater than the available limit 3.24 for a specific branch group. Me as the user, I'll go down and see, okay, I found the branch group. I notice I put a request for 100 and the remaining is only 3.24. So maybe I overshot it just a little bit. So I may either want to lower that to be under 3.24, or maybe I want to delete that and look for a different branch group that goes with my request. And then just as a reminder, this validation will also be present for step 11. As we move on, I wanted to show you one more validation request. And this is the requested submission limit exceeded for the SCID and group, the branch group. Only one request submission is allowed. So a hypothetical for this could be, maybe an LSC has gone in, they requested for El Dorado, that's on the screen, and they're good with it. And then maybe a little bit later on, they're like, actually, I don't want that request to be that number. I want it to be a different number. So instead of selecting view to edit on the UI, they may have hit an add again to re-add it when you shouldn't. You should just go through view and then you can edit through the user interface that way. So after you've gone through validations, you've figured out, okay, these are the requests that I would like to make. I want to show you what that landing screen looks like. So you've entered the information. You can also get to this screen if you just want to hit view. It'll show you all these details and you're able to edit on those little boxes that are showing up as open. And you're going to see details of the dates, what was requested. You'll notice there's an assigned import to allocation capability and a request status. Those will get filled at the end of step 10, which I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. You're also going to see the LSC limit. So this is that tradable capacity that an LSC has. And then as well as the branch group limit. So it's just going to track it for you to say, okay, this is how much is remaining for that branch group. This is how much you requested, and you can kind of edit depending on that. So once step 9, the submission window closes, it's going to now be the ISO action. So you have completed your step 8 and 9, you've completed, those were your tasks, and now it's time for us to run that calculation on the back end. So we run the calculation runs and starts to assign how much folks are receiving, and that's when we get the email notification and the market notices. So this is when that CIRA RIC notification that is automatically going to be sent to y'all. It's going to tell you, okay, yes, this group has been assigned. Please log into CIRA and see your assignment details. Additionally, like I mentioned, we are going to continue posting notices. So we'll have those posted with the correct language that talks about what you should be doing rather than emailing, because we are moving to an automated process. So once you see your email, you saw the notification, like assignments are ready to go, you can log back into CIRA, and that's when you go back to step 9/10, the initial SC request to assign RIC report. And you're going to see those two columns that we talked about previously, and they should have data in it to let you know what the assignments are. So you'll see either assigned or you'll see partially assigned. You'll notice that there's no reject option, as CIRA does have validations in place, so nothing should be rejected. Assigned basically means you got your total amount that you requested, and partially assigned is going to be a portion of what was requested, and they will use your load share ratio when assigning that partially assigned. Just as a reminder for load share, it is provided in the notice steps 6 and 7, so you will have this information already if you were curious about, okay, how does load share work? Additionally, I've linked in the BRS, there are some examples that could show you like an example calculation. If you wanted to get a little bit more technical with load share, I would point you there, but you will have that information, so it won't be anything too new for you by the time you get to assignments. So we did just go through quite a bit, and I do want to recap real quick before we pause for questions to see what folks are thinking about these first initial steps. And so as a recap, we will continue to send notices, and you'll get those emails letting you know what is happening as we go through this process. Again, please review that contact information, because you want to make sure that you're getting those confirmation emails to let you know, okay, step 10 is run, it's time to look at your assignments. As well as we went over the user actions. So for users, you'll want to look at step 8 and 9. The submission window does overlap, but you do want to complete it in sequential order. And then the last thing we talked about was step 10, so that calculation run. Once it's done, you'll get the notifications letting you know to go review that. So I'm going to pause here to see what initial questions folks have. I also know this can be something where you need to sit with it and think a little bit about it. We'll have another stopping points later on in this training, but I'll open it up now, Mo, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Dottie. We do have a hand raised from Chen Yu. Chen Yu, go ahead and state your question.
Morning. Thanks, Dottie, for all the good information. This is Chen Yu from PG&E. I just have a question on step 10. That is a calculation and publish the result. So from step 9 to 10, so do we expect any lag time there? For example, if we do a step 9, 9 o'clock this morning, when do you think the calculation will be run in order to get the result? That is on the CAISO side, right?
Yes, that is a great question. And I believe I know the answer, but also Smeeze, if you would like to add. So for step 9, once it closes, I believe it'll close at 11:59. I believe right after that, CIRA will run. I'm not exactly sure when the notifications will be sent, like how many hours it takes to run the calculation. So I'll need to follow up with Smeeze, and I'll offer them to come off mute if they know that answer.
That would be great. Thank you.
Of course, yep. I can definitely figure that out. That's a great question.
Maybe we can wait for Nalini or Abdul, who may be able to answer the question, or we can have them answer in the chat if need be.
I was just going to answer. I was on mute. The job will run after 12 a.m. So after the 11:59 p.m., the previous day's cutoff, the job will run after 12 a.m. It will be scheduled sometime in the morning hours. So you should see an email sent to you the next day in the early morning time frame. So the day step 9, the next day step 10 notifications will be sent out. So you should see an email in the next day.
This is
Nalini?
helpful. Thank you.
And Dottie, I'm not seeing any other questions, in the chat at this time. There was a question that came up earlier regarding the recording of this training. Yes, it will be recorded and posted to the Learning Center. Also, I'm not seeing any hands raised at this moment. And again, if you have a question, you can still add it to the chat, or you can ask your question later on. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to you, Dottie.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Mo. And also, I will follow up with everyone after this training. We'll do some follow-up, and I'll include all the questions that were asked during this, just so folks have it for future. So moving on, we're going to now review steps 11 through 13, which should go a little bit smoother because we did the hard work with step 9/10. And as I mentioned, steps 11 and 12 are going to be identical to that process. Additionally, we're going to talk about step 13. So this is from that MIC enhancement, the maximum import capability enhancement. We've updated the training that was previously given, as well as I've included slides for that in this training as well. And then the last thing is we just want to make sure that you walk away feeling comfortable with these steps, and we'll pause again for any questions you may have. So just like in step 9, we're going to encourage you to go back to the unassigned available import capability report, but this time instead of filtering for step 7, you're going to want to filter for step 10. And so step 10, again, it's after the calculations have run, assignments have been given. So you should notice that the branch groups, that number should be different than what you previously saw because they gave out all of that information. So for example, say I was going back and I see that Cascade has 0, I'll know, okay, maybe I will not request for that because they do not have any available import capability left for me to request. So after you review this report, do you feel comfortable with some of the numbers you're going to use for your request? You're going to now move on to step 11/12, the secondary SD request to assign RIC. Again, identical to step 9 and 10. So what this is another opportunity for folks to go in and submit import allocation capability requests for a specific branch group. Again, we have validations in place, so the ones that I just went over with you. So nothing should be rejected. It'll let you know if anything needs to be fixed. And then I know for me, I like to know exactly what I need to do versus what maybe the organization needs to do. So for step 11, that action of submitting the request will be for you to do. And then step 12 is the calculation run, and that's what we'll do. And we'll send out those reports to let you know when the assignments are given. Just to walk through it one more time. So for step 11, it's very similar. So you fill out your year, your LSC, and then the branch groups that you've determined. You'll hit add to add these rows to enter the request import capability. If you've already done this, then you're going to click view, and it's going to show you a report of everything that you have submitted. Again, just like step 9, all applicable LSCs that users are mapped to and all branch groups will be available for you to submit requests for. When you're viewing your request for step 11, you'll see that it has the information, so the request import allocation capability. You're still able to edit that field. You can review how much LSC limit is and how much the branch group limit is as it relates to this process. And again, you are able to update this field until you see at the top when the submission window closes. Likewise, so after that submission window closes, you've sent your request. Now it is time for us to run that calculation. So 11:59, the requests end at midnight, just like Nalini just talked about. We run the calculation, and then sometime that day you will get an email notification to go in and review your assignment details. Again, just like we've previously done, we will continue to post notices. we will send them out as well as put them on the reliability requirements website with updated language to make sure it correlates with this automation process. For you, after you get your email notification to go view the assignments, you'll now go to step 11/12, that tab, and you're going to look at the assigned import capability, and you can see, okay, what was requested? What's my assignment? Did I get all of it? Did I get partial? And then just as a reminder, the load share will be for that partial, that load share ratio. And I've included another example here. If you're someone who would like another technical example, you can look at the BRS for that. So that is the close for step 11 and 12. The next thing I did want to talk to you about is for step 13. So this will be a little bit new, this report here for you. So just like the other reports that you have done, you can go back to the unassigned available import capability, and now you can filter for step 12. This will show you how much is remaining for these branch groups, and you can use this again as you go into step 13 for requesting unassigned. So for step 13, again, it was previously called the SC request unassigned import capability. It has now been moved here and has been titled step 13 request unassigned. The screen is identical to what was over in the MIC enhancement training. It's just the title and the location that has changed. And what this is LSCs and SCs can have the same day priority to the step 13 unallocated remaining import capability for LSCs with existing RA contracts directly in CIRA. So as your action, you'll go in and request for import capability for each desired branch group. Now, in addition to having this step 13 in detail in the appendix for you to review, I also had it updated on our Learning Center. So if you were interested to go back and look at the MIC enhancement, you can go to Learning Center, and we have that training updated to include any change as it relates to step 13. But also for convenience, I have those slides in our appendix for you to look at. So just as a refresher, again, not as much detail, but it's good to have a recap. So remember that step 11 and 12 is identical to step 9 and 10. It's just that it's another opportunity for you to submit requests on a branch group. For your user action for step 11, remember you need to submit those requests. We talked about step 12 being the calculation run. It runs, sends that notification to users. And then for step 13, remember it's just the location and name change. We have the MIC enhancement training at the end of this, so you can look at that as a refresher. It's not necessarily part of market simulation, which I'll get to here in a second, but there is an option for it. So we did want to make sure this was available for you guys. So I'll pause here now, Mo, and I'll see if there's any questions, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Dottie. As a reminder, you can use the hand raise icon. Oh, we do have a question, Chenla. Can you go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Chunyu from PG&E. I have a question on the email notification in the market sim environment. So we do plan to conduct our market sim. So Dottie, you mentioned that once the result is the calculation is run, the SC shall receive a email notification, so we can go in and take a look. I just wonder if this will be similar in the map stage when we're doing the market sim testing.
That is a great question. My understanding is yes, but I will confirm that for you to make sure that that is available in that environment.
Great, thank you.
Of course, thank you for these great questions. And I did just get confirmation that yes, you will get the emails in this environment.
We do have another question from Robert Dolizo. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Okay, so my question is on step 8. Are we able to transfer to another LSE on a particular branch group? Doesn't seem like we can based on the information provided.
If I'm understanding correctly, you're asking if an LSE can submit another LSE on a branch group? Is that what you were kind of
Right,
asking?
because we get allocation on behalf of another LSE. So in the past, we used to kind of wait until we complete the whole MIG process until we could see it in Sierra and make the transfer. But it seems like in step 8, we can do that now, but doesn't seem like there's a branch group information that we can select in step 8.
Gotcha, great question. So for step 8, it is just an LSE to LSE transfer. It's not a bilateral trade, so you cannot do. And I know I may call on Abdul because he may add something as well to this. Abdul, if you're on.
Hey, sure, yeah, good morning. I think, Robert, what you're talking about is step 13. In step 13, you can transfer part of your import capability that you were allocated on a specific branch group. In step 8, the transactions are not based on import capability on a branch group. The transactions are based on what import capability you have left after step 7 that you can use to reserve or to request import capability on the branch groups in steps 9 and 11. So it's really, if you think about it, step 8 is like you're sending your spending money. If you have spending money that you can use to make reservations, to request reservations, that money you can share it with other people. That's the import capability for an LSC. That's what you have left after step 7.
Mm-hmm.
You got the difference?
So for our purpose, where we have a specific branch group that we are getting allocation on behalf of another LSE, for our bilateral trade, like you're saying, when are we able to do that?
You can do it in step 13, as you do today. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Yeah. The purpose of step 8 is to allow, let's say, so steps 9 and 11, only LSCs with import capability that is remaining on the LSC level can request in these steps. And those import capability, they're assigned to those LSCs at the beginning of the process. And by step 7, they have a specific number left, or maybe they don't have anything left. But whatever they have left of import capability, they can use to make reservations or request reservations or import capability on specific branch groups in step 9 and 11. And the purpose of step 8 is to allow LSCs to exchange that import capability. So let's say an LSC doesn't have anything left after step 7. If an LSC gives them import capability, they can use that in steps 9 or 11. So that's the purpose of step 8. The rules and kind of the purpose of each step is the same. It's just we're moving to Sierra instead of using emails as we do today.
That makes sense. Thank you, Abdul.
You're welcome.
I don't see any other questions in the chat at this moment, and I'm not seeing any other hands raised at this time, but I do want to pause to give some folks some time to ask if there are any. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to you, Dottie. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And thank you so much, Mo. And again, in addition to this recording and these slides, we have also updated the Sierra user guide. So when you're going through this process in market simulation, you'll have a couple different options to use as you go through it, as well as if you ever have any questions, we're always here to help you through this. So the last section that I'll talk about with you today, before we talk about market simulation, is some new reports that you'll see in Sierra. So you're going to see the holders of import capability, which was renamed, and then you're going to see the remaining import capability reports, which can be accessed by all users. Both of these reports can. So starting first with holders of import capability, as I mentioned at the beginning of this training, this was previously named the View SC Base Import Allocation, and it has now transitioned to be called the holders of import capability. So the way you'll get to this is again through SIRA, through the Manage Import Allocation under Plans, and then you'll select that title. Selecting that title is going to bring you to this landing page. And again, this is accessed by all users. You can view this report, and it's going to show you the STID, the name, the group name, as well as a couple other informations like the group type, the start date and the end date, as well as the import allocation. And so I have it highlighted here just to draw your attention to it, because the import allocation number includes all the steps in its calculation, so folks are able to filter and see exactly what is in there for them. I also want to point out that if you are interested, you are able to download these screens, and you can download them via the CVS, the Excel, or the PDF, depending on which one you would prefer to have it downloaded as. So again, it's just good information for you to look at, and it is available for you. Now, the next screen that we talked about is the remaining import capability reports. It's going to be right below the holders of import capability, so they're all housed together for convenience. So you go to Plans, Manage Import Allocation, and then select this title. When you select that title, it's going to bring you to this screen. So again, it's going to have an opportunity for you to filter for a month, a year, maybe the LSC or import group that you're specifically looking for, or you're able to just hit import capability used in annual RA plan if you just want to see a variety of things. You'll notice that this report is going to show each holder of import capabilities assigned on a particular intertie has fully included the assigned import capability in the holder's annual resource adequacy plan. And it has a little definition or title also on this page to kind of show you where this is pulled from. Very similar to the last report we looked at, you again are able to download this information on whatever platform that's listed, so CVS, Excel, or PDF. So great opportunities to just go back and look at this information. So I'll pause here to see if folks have any questions before we move on to market simulation. Mo, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you again, Dottie. At this moment, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, and I'm also not seeing any hands raised at this time, but you do have an opportunity to still ask your questions, so please feel free to add them to the chat or raise your hands. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to you, Dottie. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. And we'll have another stopping point here in just a moment after we go over Market Sim. So if you think of any questions from today's training, we will have another opportunity to kind of talk through that. So this last section is about market simulation activities. I want to make sure that you feel comfortable and you're prepared for market simulation. You understand what's going to be asked of you as you go through it. So we developed this slide for you. So market simulation starts May 6th. And in addition, I know during the market simulation forum, they've included a table that has details about what market sim will look like. And that is also in our appendix. Just for our training's sake, I tried to make it a little bit, not have so much information for you and just get to the meat of things. So what is the ISO responsibility? And then what is the user responsibility, as well as those step dates. So currently I have it as tentative. They will be updated if they are going to be updated in the market simulation forum, but those are currently the dates for market simulation. And you'll go through and you can just submit for step 8, 9. Again, like we reviewed, for step 10 is the calculation run. You view your awards. And then step 11 and 12 is that repeat. Also in the table in the appendix is for step 13. So there is that option for step 13. I just didn't include it necessarily in this table because this is what I went over with you today. So in addition to market simulation, I also wanted to point you to if you have any questions, whether it be specifically about the release. So if you have questions about the BRS or comments or feedback about the implementation, you will select for City Ticket, you'll contact release. And then if you have questions about market sim specifically, you're going to want to make sure that you filter for market simulation so we get those questions to the correct audience. So I am going to pause here, Mo, and I'll see if we have any questions. I believe I see some stuff in the chat, but I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Dottie. There were 2 questions that came in the chat. First one is from Phil Cornish. His question was, while Excel reports still be posted on the reliability page, or must one access that info in SIRA only? Abdul, will you be able to answer them?
Yeah, we will continue to post the remaining uninside import capability reports on kaiso.com and the other reports. So what you're seeing on the liability requirements page will continue to be posted.
And then the second question is from Sean. He said, please remind me when the MIC process starts every year. Abdul?
Oh yeah, it's step one. I think that the Kaiso requesting data starts in beginning of June, first week of June. That's when we start the whole process, and then I think step 8 and 9, which is when this training is relevant, the SIRA process kicks in. That's in I think July 9 or around that date. But for you guys, for the LSCs, you should watch out for that market notice that comes out at the beginning of June requesting data, so be careful with that one. So same timelines as we had in the past, and it's in the reliability requirements VPM exhibit A3.
Thank you, Abdul. And as Dottie mentioned, these questions will be provided after the meeting as well. Dottie, I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat, but again, if you still have any questions you want to ask, please feel free to add them throughout the training. And also, Dottie, I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time. And pause real quick just to give folks some time. All right, Dottie, back to you.
Perfect. And I did actually see one question come through the chat from Sophia. I see the question is, are all LOCs required to participate in the market simulation? And I believe it's encouraged to participate if this applies to you. I will reach out to Trang as well, unless Abdul, if you wanted to add anything to that question.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not aware of a requirement for anyone to participate in market sims in general. I think they're voluntary processes. However, it's a good opportunity for participants to test the new system or the new changes we're making to our system. So I would say highly encourage LSCs to participate and just for them also to get a feel of how the process would work and test it out before we go live. So highly encouraged, I would say, but I don't think there's a requirement to participate.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Abdul. So just in wrap up, just to talk about some next things, I did want to call attention to a survey that we send out. Sometime today, you will receive an email with a request to complete a training evaluation. If you could please take a moment to complete that survey, it's just going to help us to create better and more efficient training for you in the future. And then our last slide, if you have any questions about the training that was conducted today, please reach out to customerreadiness@kaiso.com. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we have recorded this training and we will post it to the Learning Center either this afternoon or by tomorrow. And again, I appreciate you. We also have our references, so I've linked some things as it's gone throughout this training, as well as a refresher for step 13 at the end in our appendix. But again, thanks for spending your morning with us. I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day.